everyone, welcome to My Way Janelda's vlog. I have someone here with me today. Everyone, welcome Milo Martin. Hey Milo, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing, Janelda?
Good, good, good. How's your day so far?
Long day, but all is well. It's been a long day.
Alright, so your digital platform, Nothing Like Nostalgia, covers the 80s and 90s, games, movies, toys, fashion, music, comics, and culture. So what made you wanted to create your digital platform, Milo?
Man, I've always had like a heart and passion for like collecting and just I've always been like a collector and just never let go of like things from the past, like my childhood, right? I'm
Right.
36. I was born in the 80s, raised in
You're
the
still
90s,
young.
so yeah, I'm still young, that, and I've always just those like these characters, these things have just made the person I am today. So
Right.
with like going back to like obviously Power Rangers as you see back there,
Love
Turtles,
it.
Ghostbusters, I grew up with all these things, and as an adult, like I guess being a nerd and stuff like that wasn't
Oh,
cool,
please, you're fine.
right? Yeah, so like I've always, as an adult, I never actually sold like my childhood toys, like my games and stuff like that. I've always like put it away, put it like in storage or in bins, and it's
Hmm.
always, I've always had them. I never, now I might have lost some things, but like, and then every few years I go through it, and I'm just like, it just brings back memories, and I'm like, man, that's so crazy that I still have them, and I just go through the past and just think of like how nostalgic these items are.
Hmm.
And then one time in like 2017, my mom actually one year got me like a, I don't know if you see those back there, kind of like a big Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Okay.
um, for
I think.
Christmas, and I was like, right, well, it's not back there, but it was like a big 12-inch action figure, right? And I was like,
Okay.
that's dope, I'm like, because I was
Right.
like, man,
Right.
I was like a toy, I was like, oh, well, I was like,
Hmm.
he's my favorite character, so I was like, okay, cool. So then I started like getting a few things here and there, like like a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I just had a shelf of just like things that reminded me of my childhood, and I'm like, man, there's just nothing like nostalgia, and it
Hmm.
just kind of just that's when it came in fruition, like 2017, 2018. I believe it was
Okay.
the end of 2017. So yeah, I just said the word, and I was like, I didn't do anything with it. I was just like,
Right.
the
Right.
term, nothing like nostalgia, and then I didn't do anything with it, and then in
Right.
2019 I started like, I was like, you know what? Let me just create a page, an Instagram page, a YouTube channel, Facebook page, and that's what I did. And I eventually, a few years later, I turned it into an LLC, and now we're here.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay. And then also, I mean, nostalgia. I'm thinking just as some millennials. I mean, the best time was in the '90s, and your 80s, 2000s.
right.
So
hmm
no, I love it. Especially, I'm all about 2000 culture. So that's good.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
oh no, go ahead.
No. I say like I love the early 2000s culture too. Like for me, nostalgia goes from like the 80s all the way to the 2000s culture. Nostalgia is gonna be different for everybody.
Right.
Depending on when you were born or like how old you are. So, I have a few friends that are older. Nostalgia for them is kind of like late 70s, early 80s, which is a little. I do remember
Okay.
some of that, but it's a little bit out of my range. Like some Thundercats, some like Voltron, He-Man, and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, nostalgia is different for everybody.
Right, right. Yeah, when I'm
hmm
thinking about, well, the 90s, I'm thinking about the fashion, the class,
Right.
cycle skirts, bandana,
Uh huh.
color
hmm
sunglasses. I'm thinking about like Britney
hmm
Spears and Destiny Child,
Right.
Beyonce. So,
Right. Yeah, I always think about like In Living Color and Fresh Prince. Like
hmm,
those are, and Martin. Like those are kind of like three things I kind of go to. Like when I think about like fashion in the '90s and stuff.
right. And speaking of that, you mentioned about your platform that you focus on the
hmm
80s and 90s. Like, which decade is really your favorite, Milo? Like, any
Oh man.
movies or video games that like inspired you during that decade, and why?
R- Right. I mean, some of my favorite movies are both from the '80s and '90s. Some of them is probably even before I was born. Like I'm a
Right,
huge
right.
Ghostbusters fan, right? Like they came out. The first movie came out in 1984. And I don't
Oh,
know if you can see the pro. Yeah, it came out in 1984, but
wow.
I don't know if you see the Proton Pack. I have a replica of the Proton Pack behind me. So yeah, the first one came out in 1984, but we grew up watching Ghostbusters. I mean, the cartoons, right? And then the second one
Mhm.
came out in 1989, which I was born in '87, so I was able to watch that. My mom took me to the movies to go watch that, but
Aw.
I mean, I've always Ghostbusters has been a thing I've always loved, right? So it's between like Ghostbusters and Turtles, and you know, Turtles came out in the '90s. Well, the movie, I'll say the movies, right?
Right,
So the
right,
actual action film movie came out in 1990, the very first one. You know, it was a little dark. You know, the first one is just a classic movie. So
right.
to pick between my two favorite decades as far as like a whole,
Mm-hmm.
I I would have to say more '90s for sure, but I love the '80s. I
Right.
feel like my soul should have been. I felt like I should have been born maybe late '70s, early '80s to experience the '80s as a kid. You know, sometimes I feel that way because it's just like, man, I wish I could have experienced all. Because I enjoy like, you know, my mom used to, you know, she used to put on like He-Man for us, right? Like when we were
Mhm.
kids. So and He-Man came out like I think late '70s, early '80s, you know, and GI Joe. So like, so I remember bits and pieces of that. I collect those too, you know, as far as toys.
G.I.
But
Joe.
yeah, GI Joes. I have some Motu, Master of the Universe, which is He Man. You know,
Right, right,
um,
right, right.
but yeah, no, I love the '90s. '90s, you know, I grew up I was a kid and teenager in the '90s, so definitely have to go with the '90s for sure.
Yeah. No, I will say
Hmm.
90s myself. I was born in the mid 90s around Power Ranger time, so
Gotcha.
I would say that because when I think about 90s, not only Mighty Morphin, I would think about like Clueless.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember Clue. Yeah, you know, it's so you talk about the movie, right? Like Paul
The
Rudd.
movie. Yeah.
It's so crazy. Ant Man was in that movie. Like, I tell people like, hey, he's been acting since the '90s.
Oh.
You know,
Right, right.
that was her stepbrother, I think. Yeah, that was her stepbrother, Paul Rudd, and
Mm-hmm.
Ant
And
Man. Yeah,
right. And then also like Bad Boys. So, gotta get the
Bad
classic.
Boys. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh huh. Yeah,
And
I'm a huge Will Smith fan, so.
yeah,
Uh,
me as me too as well. I mean,
mm,
Fresh Prince, Bad Boys, Man in
yeah.
Black. So,
Uh huh. Yeah.
yep. Now, speaking about childhood memories, Jason David Frank, and of course, for everybody that knows the Green Ranger, even, talking
Right.
about it got me shaking because, we lost him last year.
Yeah.
And before I continue on, guys, if you ever feel like you need to talk to someone, please, suicidal is not the only option. There's professionals that can help you and talk to you whenever you feel like you're in need of a person, to be right
Right.
beside you. So, but of course,
Right.
rest in peace to Jason David Frank. Milo, what was it like being one of, those last fans like myself that, got the
Hmm.
chance to meet him before his passing, and what was like, the interaction with him? What was that? Sadly, the
It's,
last
it's
moment.
it's it's heartbreaking to even talk about it. I remember
Yeah.
the morning, like I had like three text messages, like from just like different people and just messages, on other platforms like JDF pass, and I was like, there's no way, you know. And then looking up researching, I found out it was true, and I was just like, man, that's. And then just to find out what he died from,
Yeah.
supposedly, it's never. And he was such a big advocate for mental health.
Yeah.
But yeah, just those few last moments. I mean, what we saw him maybe like 7 or 8 months before he passed, I think,
Right.
at the local
December.
comic shop,
Yeah, because
right,
they
like in
said
New
that.
Tampa.
Right. They said that he came right after LA Comic Con, which I do want to talk about that. But go ahead, Milo.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I remember actually because I guess I wasn't following the comic store, so I remember originally it was set on a Friday, so I went there Friday, and
Mm-hmm.
when I drove there, I was like, oh, there's nobody here to see Jason David Frank. I was like, that's weird. So I went in, and they were like, oh no, we changed the date to Sunday, and I said, oh. So I came back Sunday, and the line was obviously you were there. The line was pretty packed. And they did it like in sections. I think I was like group like 17 or 19, I don't remember, but they were letting like 10 people at a time. This was during COVID, right? So we still had to
Right.
wear our mask, right? Towards the end of COVID. Right, yeah. So it was like right towards the end, so we still had to wear our mask, unfortunately, to go in.
Yeah.
So as he, and he was, he didn't have security or anything around him. As I was going in, I was, yeah, no, well, he had his people working, at least when my group went in, right? Yeah, no, he did. He had the two ladies working at a booth, and then the one lady taking the picture, for the photo op. And I mean, I didn't see any security there.
I
There was no
saw
security.
one big guy, one hit piece. That's
They might have worked at that comic book shop. I didn't see anybody. Yeah, I didn't see like any like male figures, like
Mhm.
besides the guys that I know that work at the comic shop.
Right.
right? But I didn't see anybody else like manning him, or like he's a professional, so he's a trained fighter. So it's just like you can try and run up on him, but right, you can try it, but let's see how long that lasts, right? So.
Right.
I went up, I paid for my, photo op and signing, and obviously, he signed that right there.
That's really cool.
So it's I got that for Christmas a few years ago from my brother. I never hung it up or anything. I just had it there. Right. So I was just like, like a year and a half, 2 years before he signed that.
Right.
So I was like, I said I'm gonna meet him one day. So I was like, I really want him to sign that. So I just
Manifested.
and then I manifested it and it came, and I was like, he was the very first person, celebrity, right? My childhood hero, like one of them that I actually met. Actually my very first one, because I never met like officially, like as far as like signing or anything. I've never got any other like actors or childhood heroes to actually like sign or like take a photo with them or anything. So he was actually my very first one. Just growing up with him in the 90s. I mean, coming home from school, just like I was already like 6 or 7 when Mighty Morphin just came out here in the United States, right? So running home, watching like we had to watch Green with Evil a day at a time, right? Like we had to Monday, Tuesday, right? So yeah, so it used to come out every day when we were Mighty Morphin. So every day it came out on Fox.
I just started this.
Really? Yeah. So yeah, every day, we used to come home after school and try and catch that episode. If you didn't have a VHS recording it, you had to catch the rerun.
Look, that's nostalgic right there.
That's it. So so we in a rush to go home to watch Tommy. Obviously when he came, he was the evil Green Ranger, right? So nonetheless, let's get back, because now I'm signing off track. So I go meet him, right? And I show him this, like he didn't see it, so I had it turned around backwards so he couldn't see it. And he's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "I want you to sign this." And he was like, "Wow, I've never seen that before." He's like, "Do you mind if I take a video of it?" I said, "Go for it." I'm come on. Why are you asking me? Go ahead. You're the Green Ranger, bro. Like you're Tommy Oliver to me in my head. So just like. So he signed all 4 corners. He put like some Japanese writing. Obviously, you saw him. He was kind of like tatted up with like a lot of like Japanese like script and stuff. So he put some of the stuff that he believed in, and just some of the things from Power Rangers on there. He actually signed the shirt as well for me. He signed the Green Ranger. He signed the chest piece, and then he signed the toy that I have right here too. That Green Ranger toy that you see right there. He signed that as me as well. So but yeah, we chopped it up. Very humble guy, very nice, humble guy. I mean, he actually took the time to actually spoke to me, like to speak. I asked him like, do you see yourself ever getting back in? And he's like, yeah, I do, but obviously we know he was kind of like, that's why he made the Legend of the White Dragon, kind of like trying to phase out of the, the whole Power Ranger thing. So, but I mean, we took a couple minutes. He took a video of that. We spoke. And he gave me, because it was only for 2 signatures, so he signed 4 corners of that. He signed the toy, and he actually signed my shirt. So he gave me 4 signatures for free. He's always known for doing that. Just like giving back to his fans. Giving back to everybody. So to lose him, like he's kind of the one that opened the door for the rest of the Power Rangers.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, losing him was kind of just like. It was almost a big punch in the gut, because it's just like, for what he stood for and how he lost his life, so it's, it's very sad. It's unfortunate. But, I mean, he always, he was a great man. He was, you never heard him like about with, any publicity, any blogs or anything like that.
Yeah.
He always kept out of trouble, and
Right.
he always put himself out there. He was a character, I mean, if you followed him on social media, he was just always joking around, always, like, that people find it corny or goofballish, but it's just he was just so full of light.
Exactly.
He always came off like that. So rest in peace to Jason David Frank. I mean, he was like the childhood hero for me. Like as a kid, like as a very young kid. So
Right. And I think he was a childhood hero for many of us. I mean,
yeah.
I watched Jason David Frank as Tommy Oliver when I was 3, right? And then
Right.
my time was the Disney era Power Rangers. So I once they did the episode, they had an episode where they did flashbacks of every Power Ranger season. It was Dino Thunder where he came back as the last Ranger, last time he
Uh,
stood up as a Ranger, right?
right.
So the episode where he came as, the new Ranger, the evil. What was the name of the episode again?
Which
The
one?
when he turned evil, started to be a Ranger with
Oh,
made a
Green with Evil.
yes,
Green
and
with Evil.
right, and that was one of the scenes. And I was like, wait a minute, I think I watched this when I was like a kid, and
Right.
all
Yeah.
that comes to play, and it was so great to see him suiting up as a Ranger once more,
Yeah.
during Dino Thunder season. But no, going back meeting, that's how we met, during that
Right.
comic event. But yeah, when I met Jason David Frank myself, first of all, I'm just like happy go lucky, my face like
Who you telling, right? Inside, I was like, don't freak out, don't say anything crazy. I put that on my YouTube channel. Actually, I did a video about that too, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, don't freak out, don't say anything, like, don't say anything crazy. But that's how my inside was for sure. Yeah.
right, right. And I'm over here like, he's talking to me. But before all of that, sadly for me, something happened that day. So basically, I got a phone call, family emergency. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I walked into the comic store to meet him. I don't know what had switched for me, but the moment I saw him, I was like in my inner child, like my 3-year-old self. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? And I remember
Of
telling
course,
him,
yeah.
I remember telling him like, I'm 20 minutes away where I used to live, and
Yeah.
I was like, I was born during this time of Power Ranger. He's like, thanks, you make me
Yeah.
old.
He was
And
such a character. Yeah.
he was, and there was something, I would never expect Milo for me to meet someone I've watched, and I just met the guy. Sadly, I won't meet him again, but like this been for so long. I'm now telling you guys this with Milo. Let's just say he wanted to give me an opportunity, and I
Oh
was like
wow.
in shocked. And I got this family emergency going on, and then with this news, and I'm just like ecstatic. Like, what can I
Right.
say?
Yeah. I mean, you
But
got to at that point is a twist of emotions.
right, but it was nice that I got some kind of information to try to get in contact. But
Oh wow.
sadly, since his passing, I mean,
Uh,
who knows? But what
right.
I will say though, if you have watched, and for any of you guys should try out or check out, excuse me, should check out Henry Resilient. He's a YouTuber. He actually interviewed his family. Trust me, I didn't believe him at first because I'm like,
Right. Right. You talking
but
about Tammy and Jenna?
Jenna and his assistant Francis, who was so
Oh,
sweet.
Francis. Yeah.
And for them to be brave and to explain about the situation and also about Jason, nobody doesn't know. Everybody keep their business private. I respect that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. With these celebrities, and and even with us, right? That's just
Right.
online. Like, we're only going to show you what we want you to see, right?
Exactly.
Unless and some people put everything out there, and that's fine. But we're only going to put what we want you to see. And I'm sure that and most celebrities are like that. They put exact. You never know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So when people make assumptions and just things of that nature, it's just like you never know what somebody's going through internally behind their homes. He was always just a charm online. Who
Right.
knew that he was going through that? As much as he spoke about mental health, who knew?
Exactly. And speaking about, Power Rangers now, Milo, um, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Once and Always special was, I think, now 2 months ago. Um, what do you think about the special? And, since, unfortunately another, Power Ranger, actress passed, which is Tweety Train, who was Trini Swan in Mighty Morphin, the first and half of the second season, um, was written off. How do you think they should have written Tommy?
To write him off is just like it would be interesting to see how they do it. Would they get would they pull a page from the comics? Like, maybe
Mm, Boom
him
comic.
turning, maybe possibly seeing a live action Lord Raccoon. Maybe you don't write him off. Maybe Tommy Oliver changes, right? Like he turns evil. We get something that somebody, right? Or
Mhm.
maybe who knows? Maybe somebody from his studio, or maybe even Jenna. Maybe he stopped, and maybe a Lord Raccoon version of Tommy Oliver, right, in the live action. It's gonna be kind of difficult to kind of write him off if they do if they do a part two of Once and Always.
Yeah,
Um,
if we're
which
gonna
I
have
don't.
it.
Right. If that happens, right, because they
Mhm.
kind of condensed it all into one episode. Now, I think they could have done like a 3 or 4 part series with that.
Right, right.
So, but I get it. Maybe who knows? Again, we're not in the studios. Who knows how much the budget was? How much how much time they had with production,
Mhm.
effects and stuff of that. So, I'm sure they did the best they can with what they were allowed with. But that's if we get a part two. But originally, I probably would have done a good 3 or 4 part series because it gave the quirkiness. It gave that nostalgic feeling. If you
Right.
didn't watch Power
Cheesiness.
Rangers, like a lot of people were just like, oh, it was horrible. It's just like it did what it needed to do,
Right.
right? Like it
Mhm.
gave me all the nostalgic feels that I was looking for and
Mhm.
more, right? Like it's not meant to be like, like today's modern age fun. Like it gave the nostalgic feels it was supposed to give.
Mhm.
And then now, was there parts that could have been written better or been better?
Yeah.
Everybody has their opinion, and I feel like yes, there could have been, but it gave what it had to give. Like and I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. How I think they should written of Tommy. So, of course, for any, non-Power Ranger fans, you know how, what we just discussed, Milo, he was
Right.
under a spell with Rita Repulsa. In
Mm-hmm.
between Rita Repulsa and Tommy Oliver, somewhere in the morphing
Mm-hmm.
grid, I think is triggering Tommy within those powers. And I think we'll send him to the hospital and something down the line, the writers should just kind of written off, they say,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, that could very well work because
yeah.
in the original Mighty Morphin series, right, the Green
Hmm.
Candle, he actually was started. His powers were starting to fade. That's
Right.
how he lost the Green Ranger powers. So, being that he went back to the morphing grid and was able to retain his powers, unfortunately, that got him sick because those were Rita's evil powers, and
Exactly.
being that she came from the future, that could very well work, and they
Hmm.
could write him off like that because the Green Ranger powers don't exist anymore.
Right.
That's why Zordon made the White Ranger, out of light, pure light, pure energy. So,
Or he say too much pink power.
right, that could be very true as well.
Right, right. Who do you think, again, with so much going on in Power Rangers, who do you think should be the forefront of the franchise? Sadly,
Ooh,
JD is gone, so
yeah.
who do you think could be the forefront?
That's a lot of pressure to put on one Power Ranger.
Right.
Even though like Jason was like kind of like I feel like Jason, I mean Tommy Oliver, was kind of like the forefront of like kind of like speaking for the Power Rangers like legacy and like um, and things of that nature. He kind of like really opened the doors for the other Power Rangers. Obviously as we said before, for all these opportunities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was the most popular one, right? I mean,
Hmm.
he did so many seasons, and he was in it for so long.
Yeah.
But it really, people might not agree, but it's just like if I were to pick anybody, I don't like to put this on any one particular person, but I feel like it has to be originally from that the original Mighty Morphin, the original team, the OG team. Um,
No, I
I mean,
agree.
I mean, the only other person I would say is Austin St. John. To be honest with you, I mean, there's really no other person. I mean, I can't think of anybody else to be honest with you. Him, I mean, Walter Jones. Actors. It's kind of hard, but I would say Austin St. John. Um,
I'm St. John.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's only it's only right.
Mm-hmm.
In my book, it's only right. He was, when he was in the series, I mean, he was a great Red Ranger. I mean, regardless of what people think or say, I mean, in my book, he was a great Red Ranger. He was a great leader for sure when he had it.
Yeah, he was. I mean, when I think about Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin, Jason and Tommy, the characters, yes. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, ASJ, if he, don't have any issues, it'll be great for him to take the forefront.
Right.
But what you said in the beginning, no, you are correct on my book. It's
Hmm.
just hard to just look at one of the OGs besides Jason and possibly, Jason or Tommy. But when you look at the others, when I see Mighty Morphins, they come as unison. They come as together.
Yeah.
Whereas Tommy
Jason.
was like he brought the flair to Power Rangers. I mean,
He did. It's a crazy story because once he was written off with his Green Ranger
right,
powers, the writers didn't expect to bring him back. But I don't know if you
right,
know the story. It's because so many people were calling Fox Studios, and because they were like, "Hey, my kids want to see more Tommy, more Tommy."
exactly.
They brought him back in.
Hmm.
So initially when they wrote him off, that's it.
Right,
So those
right.
few episodes after he lost his powers, and then I think it was like 4 or 5 episodes later, they started the Green Light series, which was like a 2 to 3 series episodes on Tommy getting his powers back. So
Right.
yeah, it's because he was so popular. They brought him back. But I think again, I would have to go with ASJ Austin St. John, if anybody.
Right, right.
But again,
I say all of them. I mean, you need to have Walter. You need to have Kimberly. Sadly, Trini Kwan character won't be existing.
right, so,
But then
yeah,
of course you need, Billy, you need, Davios. Again, you need
yeah,
Davios, Amy Jo, Walter,
mm-hmm,
and ASJ. You need the OG
right,
for some time.
right.
They say they don't want to be in
Right.
their 50s, 60s, well, 60s in spandex. So,
Right, yeah, that's what Amy Jo said, I believe. Yeah, but
mhm, yeah,
yeah, even the ones that were recasted, I've seen a lot of good things about them, like Johnny Bosch,
right.
which replaced the Black Ranger, right?
Aisha,
Adam,
yeah. Karen, Ashley, yeah.
Karen, yep, and then Steve Cardenas, the one that replaced Jason, the Red Ranger. So I mean, you know, I could, we all know who the popular ones are, and even there's
Right.
some even after that, like another very popular Ranger I see like in Comic Cons and stuff like that is Jason Font, which he played the Red Time Force Ranger,
Right, right.
right? So
That's
I know he's
too.
yeah, so I know he played. I see his pop. He's actually in the movie with I believe with Jason David Frank in the White Dragon, the Legend of the White Dragon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right,
so they were actually real good friends in real life too. So yeah, I know he's another popular one.
right,
So,
right. But yeah,
it's just kind of hard to like put that specific title on somebody. But we all know like Jason David Frank was that guy. I mean, and he
he
took it
guy.
like he took it with pride. Like I mean, obviously it's not something that came out of his mouth or something that that he
Mhm.
ever said. But I mean, as fans, we all kind of know like like
Yeah.
he was holding the fort down.
Hmm. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, it's always going to be JDF, and you
yeah,
know, hopefully we can see her, his daughter, and once and always if there is a part two,
right, for
just gonna
sure.
get that. But again, going back to Power Rangers, Milo. So according to Screen Rant, an article called "Disney Canceled Power Rangers: Jason versus Tommy Civil War." Everything we know about it, which was published on May 9th, 2023. The
Hmm.
article states, a Power Rangers Civil War between original Green Ranger Tommy and original Red Ranger Jason almost happened in a Power Ranger season that never was. In
Oh,
addition,
that's interesting.
right? In addition, Mighty Morphin Tommy somehow knew Rangers he had never interacted with during the TV show, such as Power Rangers in Space, like Andros.
Hmm.
Likewise, Jason, the original Red Ranger, claimed he knew most of the Red Rangers from Forever Red. Again, the statement mentioned shortly after the events of Forever Red, Tommy would have put together the Hexagon. The three main rangers from Ranger would have been Tommy's pupils, but other teams would also answer to the Hexagon. So again, continue on. Power Ranger Hexagon would have led to a Power Ranger Civil War. The Beetle Rangers from Hurricane Ranger, who entered the Super Sentai series as villains and later joined the heroes, would have operated outside of Tommy's Hexagon. These two Rangers going against the orders of Tommy would then connect with Jason. Presumably, Jason would be against the idea of the hexagon. Eventually, Tommy's Ninja Rangers and Jason's Beetle Rangers would clash. There were also plans for an actual battle between Tommy and Jason. So for anybody, that was the end of that statement. But for anybody who doesn't know, it's based on the 11th season of Power Rangers, which would have been Ninja Storm season, which is their 20th anniversary. But it
Hmm.
pertains with the three Rangers again: Ninja Rangers, Tori, the Blue Ranger, Shane, the Red Ranger, and Dustin, the Yellow Ranger. And then of course the Beetle Rangers are Hunter, the Crimson Ranger, and Blake, the Navy Ranger. And then also the Green Samurai Ranger would have been Tommy instead of Cam, again from Ninja Storm.
Oh,
So
okay. Oh, so he would have been
yeah,
okay. So Tommy would have been the Samurai Ranger. Oh, okay. Got you.
mhm,
When you kept on saying Samurai, I was like, wait, was Tommy the? Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
right. So Milo,
Okay.
the statement I read to you, how do you think that season would have been if it wasn't like a Ninja Storm and it
Oof.
could be a Dino Thunder season? Like if it wasn't those two seasons and what I just read, how you think a Jason Tommy Civil War or battle like Mighty Morphin, how would have that season would have been? What do you think?
Oh, that was a whole. That would have been a whole season.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, I think the ratings would have been out the roof.
Right.
I don't know why that never happened. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you see, I watched parts of Ninja Storm, and I've dabbled into like just watching a few episodes
My
of
favorite
each,
season.
right? Right. You see, so I watched all the like most through like Saban, right? So I
Hmm.
watched Mighty Morphin Zeo. I kind of stopped at Turbo. And then I watched, as I got older, I watched, I was like, let me go back and dabble. In Space was great.
Right.
Um, Lost Galaxy was great.
Hmm.
Time Force, so that whole Saban era was great. And then I dabbled into like watching a few episodes here just so I can like familiar myself with it. And it was
Hmm.
just like Ninja Storm was good. Actually, that
Really?
Red Ranger, he's one of the ones that actually passed away from
Really?
suicide as well, I believe. Yeah. Shane something, right?
Hank Clark.
Or Shane,
Who I'm not
right,
gonna say
right.
what's his name.
Yeah, but to see that, I mean, would
Yeah.
have been phenomenal. Could they have brought those two individuals together to film that season? That's probably what the big issue was, I think, right?
I
Because
think
I think they knew kind of
yeah,
that they didn't get along, so kind of would have been a little bit difficult for them to kind of
yeah,
act,
sadly. I
Yeah.
didn't believe, real quick, sorry, Milo, real quick. When I started out being into the Power Rangers community, I'm thinking, as a kid, like, haha, Red Ranger, Green Ranger. I don't think that's
Yeah.
existing, but it would be like, hey, between the two. But now, 3 years ago, getting to the Power Ranger community, I'm like, so this is true, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to say too much, but toward the end of things happening, with JDF, you know, sadly, things, got, worse between them two, but hopefully things patch now with,
Right.
family and ASJ. But, yeah, I didn't think that's, possible. I mean, I thought, everybody just worked together and, but they're
Right. And we'll never know what happened behind closed doors, right? Because
we're not,
there's so many. I've heard so many different interviews and so many podcasts and so many assumptions and like just kind of just going into that rabbit hole. Like, why? What is like like you guys were two peas in a pod. You were the Red Ranger and the Green Ranger, and
exactly.
then you were the Gold Zeo Ranger and the Red Zeo Ranger. Like you guys were
Hmm.
two peas in a pod. So like what happened? Like if that would have been great to see them come back. Like for a whole new season and do a Civil War. It's almost like Captain America Civil War. We saw Captain America against Iron Man, and I feel like that was one of Captain America's best movies. Like that was a hit, that it would have been the same thing. It gives that same effect. You love these characters and these
Exactly.
characters like you embody these characters. We would have loved to see them like go against each other because it's just like
Hmm.
you like both of them so much and it's just like like what are you standing for? Yeah, but
Right.
unfortunately, real life
Happen.
situations between these two happen, and
Right. Right.
unfortunately they could never even get them to a Comic-Con together.
Sadly, yeah. They would have made so much money.
I think they should just yeah, that and for the fans it's just like like Austin St. John, he's always doing he does a lot of Comic Cons, he's very active, and so was obviously Jason David Frank, but it's just like to see them both like just actually in the same Comic Con would have been great.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
also real quick, I do remember Jason. Oh, speaking about Power Rangers,
Mhm.
real quick about Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder. So Ninja Storm, I won't say too much because that's really my favorite season. It's nostalgic.
Yeah.
It's my
Right.
childhood, so that's why I love
Yeah.
it. And it reminded me of Mighty Morphin. So like I can imagine you as a '90s kid, it has that '90s flair. And if you can
Yeah.
imagine with me as a 2000s kid,
Right.
it has the nostalgic of the fashion, the type of kind of music, and and the
Right.
the trends at
Mhm.
at the time. But Jason mentioned that one of the producers for Power Rangers in one of his interviews, he mentioned Douglas Salone, one of the producers at the time for Power Rangers, the Ninja
Mhm.
Storm, which again I believe is a great season. But hey, everybody had their own
Yeah.
reasonings of certain taste. But they
Yeah.
said the season, and I think has to do with not connecting to the Power Ranger universe. Excuse me.
Mhm.
There was a scene in the beginning of the first episode where Dustin, the Yellow Ranger, who's really into Power Rangers, was mentioning of existing of Power Rangers. And I love my girl Tori. That's my girl. But, you know, his
Yeah.
part was like, Power Rangers? You gotta
Right.
be joking. And I heard that fans were not pleased of how that started off for a new universe from Saban to Disney era, and the,
Right.
what everything
Yes.
transitioned to New Zealand at the time, but um,
Right.
so that's why Jason said in one of his interviews that Douglas Salone, has to bring him back to just bring up the ratings, and it did for fans like yourself, and you know
Right. For sure.
remember Mighty Morphin. So
Yeah. I mean, that definitely, it definitely worked. Um,
Mhm.
again, like Mighty Morphin gave what it had to give, and after the whole Saban era, like, as I watched it as an adult, then I will, watch some of the Disney ones, right? Like Ninja
right.
Storm. Ninja Storm wasn't that bad. But there's some other ones that I was
Oh, thank you.
it wasn't that bad. Listen, just you know what it was. I think most of us were like used to like five Rangers, right? Plus there being a sixth.
Right.
Now I think it started with like Dino Fury or one of those where it started with three Rangers, and then they get two, and then or
Oh,
right
okay.
because Ninja Storm started with three Rangers, and then they had the two Crimson Rangers, right? Like you were just mentioning in the
Crimson and Blake as Navy. Yeah. So Hunter. Yeah.
right. But
Right.
they,
Right.
these new series that have, they were starting with three Rangers,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and then with six. So we were used to like the five, and then getting that six Ranger, the big reveal,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it was different, But I checked out some of the Disney ones, and I'm like, it's questionable, just
It is.
some
Yeah.
of the seasons, I'm just like, maybe not. So it's just like I can't. Can I sit there and watch these whole seasons? That's why I said I've dabbled into watching a few episodes on all of them, just to
Mm-hmm.
kind of see. And I'm just like, well, I said, to myself, me being, from watching Mighty Morphin coming from that era, I said, let me not take that away from them because to them it gives them that feeling too. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it just doesn't do it. For these, or for people that watched it during like that Disney era, right? From like I would say like early mid 2000s all the way until Saban took it back. Um,
Oh, I
it
stopped at
just
2005. SPD, that was done. I was like, okay, I'm
and I
getting
heard that was
old.
another popular one though too.
Huh?
I heard that was like one of like a good one too. Like a lot of
Yes.
people tell me like when I randomly start talking to people like about Power Rangers, SPD always comes up. They're like, man, that one was a really good one. I guess they had different team squads, right? Because I collect the toys, so I see them like Team Squad A,
There were
Team
B
Squad B.
Squad, the main characters, B
Right.
Squad, and then A Squad
Mhm.
was like the last minute of the ending of the season or the show. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So
Oh,
yeah,
no.
I just couldn't get with it. I was just like, nothing will do, just like the original Saban era. But you know,
We'll see how it is because, again, news has it that they left New Zealand. They've been there since Ninja Storm season. So, all the way to Once and Always. So we'll see where they're going
right.
to do, Hasbro, what they're planning with Power Rangers. They say they're supposed to have a new universe. So,
Right. Well, that'd be interesting. I'm always up for innovation and just change. Because it's evolution. Can't expect to like
exactly.
get stuck in the '90s. Like as much as I love it. I listen
Same.
nostalgia. Right. I love it, but we just can't get stuck there. Just can't. So I'm all up for evolution. And just to see like this show evolve into more.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Hmm.
But of course, before we go here to ending this, Milo, if someone wants to start a nostalgic platform, what advice do you have for those individuals that want to start that? What's your advice?
I would say just start. It just you can never do anything without starting. Some people just read too much or like uh, download too many like programs and just like or courses and just trying just like how do I just start? It's just like just start posting stuff you enjoy. Start talking about the things you enjoy, like things that bring you back to your childhood or just anything. You just
Do you
have to start.
play?
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, for sure. So some people are just like kind of embarrassed or just ashamed. Like, oh, what are my peers gonna think? But it's just like, who cares?
Right.
Like,
Cheers.
who really cares, man? Like,
Like
none of that
we're
really matters.
ears. So
Yes, look, I'm a 36-year-old nerd. I don't care.
I'm
Like,
in 30s, so who cares?
yeah, it's such it's so crazy because when I was in high school, like like being like that wasn't like a popular thing, but it's just such a it's such a huge thing now that it's just like, it's just like, but it's not like I came out of the woodworks. It's just like it was always there. Trust me, it was there. Like I never got rid of any of my stuff. I just, like I just didn't bond with people like that. But now it's just so much more public and just so much more things for like, what they call us kidults now, right? That's literally the term for it. Like it's called kidults.
They
Like
can never ask, like, not ask, they can never understand why millennials love nostalgic, like from the 90s, 2000s, and there's a reason, you
There,
know?
there is. I mean, there's
Yeah.
again like my whole thing is based off of that. It's nothing like nostalgia to me. Like, and several other people. It's just like when you think about those things, man. It's just like you go back to that time. Is term, man. There's nothing like nostalgia. It's literally what it. That's what it gives you. Just
Hmm.
that whole nostalgic
The
feel. So
simple time.
it's much more simple times.
Hmm.
Much more simple. So I always my advice is just to start posting. Don't think about it. Post what you like, post what you enjoy. You'll find like-minded people. Once you keep on posting, it comes to you. You start joining these communities. You start talking to
Exactly.
other different people that are similar, like have the same interests and things like that. And
But
that's
you,
literally
like,
how I started. I
yeah.
started selling toys, comics, cards, just being involved in these communities.
Hmm.
um, yeah, starting my own channels, all the way to turning it into like, an LLC. So,
Exactly.
you just never know, where the possibilities lie when you don't do it. It's like that. What if you do it? What if you're never gonna know if you don't start.
Yeah.
So just start.
And congratulations to you with your LLC, Milo.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, of course. Now, I hope you have time. Like I always do in the end of my interview, I got a
Right.
trivia for you.
Let's see. Let's see how much of a nerd I am. Let's see that.
It's a what you know. I think I'm just gonna call it, a nostalgic version.
Gotcha.
You know
Okay.
what I'm saying,
Touche. Touche.
Milo? So, Milo, are you
Hmm.
ready?
I'm as ready as it can be. Hopefully I can stand up to the name.
I think you got this. All right. So, basically, it's going to be three questions by me and some other sources like IMDb. So, let's get started.
Fair enough.
All right. So, Milo, according to IMDb, who was the American comic book writer, editor, and publisher who was executive vice president and publisher of Marvel? Here are the three options. All right. Is it
Okay.
A? Is it A? Spike Lee,
Okay.
B. Stan Lee, or
Okay.
C. Nas?
It's so crazy because that's actually my favorite rapper. That's hilarious. And he's such a nerd. Well, I'm not. I know he's a huge Ghostbusters fan. He's a very very big
Oh.
Ghostbusters fan. Yeah, he's actually dressed up in like the full suit, like the
See,
proton
look,
pack.
guys, look. Nas, like,
Yeah,
what Milo's saying. Nas, like, Ghostbusters.
yeah, he's
Like,
a
come
huge. I mean,
on.
go to his Instagram. You'll see him like yeah, he was all dressed up, with the whole proton pack, the suit, and everything. So we
See?
know it's not Nas. Not Nas. I know Nas. So let's go with Stan Lee. I know it's not Spike Lee. He's a director. I would assume it's not Spike Lee, but yeah, let's go with Stan Lee.
Yes, that would be me, Stanley. Yes.
Okay.
So 1 point for you, Milo. All right, it's gonna be a little different question here. So, second question here for you, Milo. Which decade were they call it the calm shell, known as the flip phone? So which decade was that flip phone was invented? Um,
Yeah.
so which is the Motorola in 1996. It's called like the Dub, the StarTAC, according to Business Insider. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so is it A, the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
B, the 70s, or C, the 80s?
Interesting.
Which I kind of already gave you the answer. So
Right. I mean, I feel like it would be the '90s.
yes.
I'm about to say yeah, because I don't remember because I remember even yeah because one of my first phones were actually this was when Altel was still around. It was a huge
Hmm.
brick phone and it had the big antenna to it too. That was like in like seventh or eighth grade, and the screen was green and black, and the only game on there was Snake. That was my very first cell phone.
Okay. I
Yeah,
don't know. I wasn't, such a child, toddler, so I can't even know
right,
what.
right. But I remember they had the flip phones. I think that's where Netflix. I mean Netflix. Jesus Christ. What's the one that Chime
Blockbuster.
one? No, no, no. It started with an N too. I forget what it was called. The
Oh,
I believe. Why am I
um,
getting this such a blank right now? It was called
shoot.
Nextel. I think that's where Nextel got their inspiration from, because
Yes.
that's what we all wanted that the flip because it was a flip phone, right? But you were actually like able to walkie talkie with the Nextel. So
Okay.
right, yeah. So no, I had to be in the '90s for sure. That's why I was
I'm
like,
thinking about beepers. 'Cause I was like, wait, beepers kind of beep
oh,
beep.
beepers, right? Well, beepers came out in the '80s. I remember beepers.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I had a beeper.
Uh,
Yeah, my father got me a beeper like it was like in the '90s, right? I
yeah.
remember they all used to walk around with beepers. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those prepaid phones too. We like go to like a restaurant like McDonald's back in the days and
Hmm.
making those phone calls. Yeah.
Uh, yep.
And then last question here, Milo. Since we have been mostly talking about Power Rangers, can you name all the Power Ranger seasons that the character Tommy Oliver was quote unquote suited up?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Mighty Morphin, Zeo, Turbo, um, uh, the Dino Thunder, um, and then they did the big one with where they brought all the Rangers back, all seasons back. That was
Basically, I'm just asking like the name of the seasons or
oh, his main seasons. Yeah, so
right.
then okay, so Mighty Morphin, Zeo, Turbo, and then Dino Thunder,
Quick
right?
question.
Mhm.
Was he suited up in like season one or two or three or
Well, he was suited up in all seasons for Mighty Morphin. Um, there was only one season for Zeo, and there was only one season, but they switched the whole team in Turbo halfway through Turbo.
I
Besides
was asking how
Justin,
many seasons basically in Mighty Morphin did he suit up?
oh, all three seasons. He was suited up for all three seasons of Mighty Morphin. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes, you
Yeah,
are correct.
yeah. He was
Yes.
suited up all three seasons. Yeah, Mighty
Yes.
Morphin was the only one that had three seasons.
Yes.
So
Mighty Morphin season one to three. So one, two, three
yeah.
of seasons of Mighty Morphin,
Mm-hmm.
Zeo, Turbo, and of course one of my favorite seasons, Dino Thunder. So
Dino Thunder. Yep.
yep. And you
You know,
won.
I'm nostalgic. Yes.
Nostalgic,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. You know what's crazy? There was actually supposed to be a Zeo movie that was never released before Turbo. I saw
Really?
that literally like a year ago. Yeah, I saw this article. I actually saw the cover for the poster and everything for the Zeo released movie.
Oh,
Yeah, there was
they
supposed to be a Power
also
Ranger Zeo movie. Yeah, it would have been great to see that.
really.
Hmm.
They also mentioned, and again, real quick, during the pandemic, of course, I watch. That's when I started watching the Saban, the whole Saban era.
Right.
From Mighty Morphin all the way to. I want to say well, 4 seasons halfway, but
Right. Yep.
right. But the
Mm-hmm.
main four all the way to In Space because I heard so much great things. But they said Time Force was supposed to have their movie as well, and I can see
Oh,
that
really?
after watching. Yeah, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
it's
That was a
crazy.
popular season. That was a very popular season. I watched that.
Yeah,
I actually watched that whole season. Yeah.
yeah.
Now
Oh yeah,
my favorite in that season was the Quantum Ranger. What's his name?
Eric.
Wes? Eric. Eric. There we go.
Yeah,
Eric. Yeah.
Wes was. Yeah, Jason Fox. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Jason Fox was Wes. Yeah. 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 And Quantum was my favorite. Yeah. I enjoyed his
yeah,
character.
yeah.
I usually enjoy like the vigilantes like that. That kind of turn good and like do their own
Right,
thing. Like it's always kind of been like my go-to people.
right. But before we go
Hmm.
here, Milo, is there anything you'd like to say?
Um. Yeah. Everybody that's looking to do your thing, like it doesn't matter how many people are like on that specific, like you go down the bread aisle, right, or the cereal aisle, you see tons and tons of cereals, different brands and different names of breads, like or cereals. Like, don't let the amount of people stop you starting your own platform or like just speaking about something. Just do it. Be inspired. If it's not through this, find inspiration out there. Um, just do it. Just start. You know,
Yeah,
because I kind of had the same issue, and then after I started posting, I just started posting. Um,
there
but
will
yeah,
be
no,
some
it's
that you don't care what people think. Just do it.
yeah, you kind of have to just set that, like you kind of have to. People are gonna say stuff regardless. I mean, the celebrities deal with that all day. If they, I mean, they will be online all day responding to all the negative reactions, right? Like, it's impossible. Like, people are just gonna have negative things to say. They're obviously in a bad spot or a bad place in their life. And you can always return that with positivity. That's up to you. But just start. And this has been great. It's been a while since I've done a podcast. I actually got to relaunch mine. So once
Yeah.
I relaunch mine, I
Yeah.
have to bring you on.
Oh gosh.
We'll talk about your platform. Yeah,
I will love
yeah,
that. Of course, of course.
yeah,
Well, Milo, thank you so much for being part of My Way Janelle's blog. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah. Of course. Take care.
You too. Thank you.